The laughter in the studio was almost deafening. The late-night host leaned over his desk, clutching his sides, while Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sat poised, her confidence radiating through the cameras. "Stephen Miller," she repeated with a smirk. "He's like if a Halloween clown and a used car salesman had a kid who stopped growing at 4'10". The audience howled. Even the host covered his mouth, pretending to suppress a laugh. The joke landed perfectly, too perfectly. Within minutes of airing, the clip hit every social platform imaginable. Memes popped up. Parody accounts were created. The phrase, 4'10" clown, trended across X, TikTok, and YouTube. Backstage, producers were ecstatic. "You just broke the internet again," one whispered as AOC scrolled through her mentions, smiling at the chaos she'd unleashed. For her, it was another night of sharp political theater, a bit of humor at a rival's expense. But outside that bubble, the tone wasn't landing the same way. Some found it hilarious, others saw it as cruel. Hundreds of miles away, in his Senate office in D.C., J.D. Vance watched the same clip play out on his phone. The screen flickered as he replayed it, eyes narrowing each time. "This isn't politics anymore," he said finally, placing the phone down. "It's mockery. Just a game to them." His aide hesitated. "Sir, it's going viral. You might want to stay out of it." Vance shook his head. "No, someone has to call it out." He opened X and typed, "Leadership isn't about who can insult better. It's about who can lead better. Our country deserves more than circus acts in Congress." The post went live. Within 10 minutes, it had tens of thousands of likes. People across the political spectrum began to share it, not because they agreed with Vance's politics, but because they agreed with his point. By midnight, conservative talk shows were already quoting him. "J.D. Vance just said what everyone's been afraid to say," one commentator declared. "This constant ridicule, it's poisoning everything." The following morning, Vance was invited onto Good Morning America. When the host asked if he was being too sensitive, he met her gaze steadily. "Mocking someone's height or appearance doesn't make you witty," he said. "It makes you small. We need more decency in public life." For the first time in a long while, the audience didn't clap for comedy, they clapped for conviction. The next morning, the media landscape was electric. News anchors debated whether J.D. Vance's reaction had been a moral stand or political grandstanding. Cable panels buzzed with clips from his interview, replaying his now viral line, "Mock a man's height if you want, but that won't lift your own." Some called it poetic, others accused him of being overly dramatic. But one thing was clear, he had shifted the conversation. AOC, never one to stay quiet, fired back on X. "When you defend clowns, don't be surprised when you end up in the circus." The post shot to the top of trending lists, sparking another wave of memes. Her supporters laughed, her critics groaned. It seemed like the endless cycle of political pettiness would continue, until Stephen Miller himself decided to step in. In an unexpected Fox News appearance, Miller leaned forward in his chair and said calmly, "Look, I've been insulted before. I don't lose sleep over jokes. But I'll say this, Senator Vance showed something we don't see much anymore, basic decency. I respect that." His words stunned viewers. Even the host looked surprised. It wasn't a political counterattack. It was grace, quiet and deliberate. And it completely flipped the narrative. Within hours, headlines across major outlets read, "Stephen Miller thanks J.D. Vance for defending civility." AOC's earlier tweet suddenly looked out of place, even childish. Talk shows that once celebrated her sharp wit now questioned whether she had crossed a line. The same audiences that had laughed at her joke now found themselves reconsidering what it meant to win an argument. A few days later, a short clip from a high school civics class went viral. A teacher played both AOC's joke and JD's response. Afterward, one teenage girl raised her hand and said softly, "Maybe politics isn't supposed to be funny. Maybe it's supposed to be serious." That simple remark hit millions of views. In Washington, J.D. Vance noticed the shift but didn't gloat. Walking through the marble halls of the Capitol late one evening, a reporter called after him, "Senator, do you feel vindicated?" He paused, turned slightly, and said, "No. I just hope people remember. Mockery fades fast, but integrity lasts longer." Then he walked away, the echo of his footsteps fading into the silence of the night. Even his critics couldn't help but admit, this time, he'd won without saying a word too loud. Swarmed like bees, microphones thrust forward, shouting Alina's name. "Miss Cruz, how does it feel to be free? Did you know Ethan Hale would defend you? Are you planning to sue the Hales?" But Elena couldn't speak. Her throat was dry, her heart still racing from the courtroom battle. For months, she had lived in fear, hated by the public, branded a thief, and unable to find work. Now, the truth had finally come out, but freedom still felt heavy. She wasn't sure how to live without the weight of accusation pressing down on her. Ethan placed a hand gently on her shoulder, shielding her from the flashing lights. "Come with me," he said quietly. "There's somewhere we can talk." He guided her toward a waiting car, ignoring the chaos behind them. As the door shut, the noise faded. For the first time in months, silence surrounded her. Elena turned to him, still shaken. "Why did you do it, Ethan? You risked everything. Your father's reputation, your family's name." Ethan's eyes softened. "Because you didn't deserve what they did to you. You were there for me when no one else was. I remember how you helped me study when I failed my first semester, how you made sure my mother's meals were ready when she was too sick to move. You were the only one who cared without expecting anything back." Alina's lips trembled. "And your mother? She hated me for that." Ethan sighed. "She was afraid, not of you, but of losing control. My parents' marriage had been falling apart for years. The bracelet was just an excuse." The car stopped outside a small cafe near the city park. They sat down at a quiet corner table, the smell of coffee filling the air. For the first time in years, Elena smiled faintly. "I don't know what I'll do now. I have no home, no job, no reputation left." Ethan looked at her with quiet determination. "Then start again. My family owes you more than money. I'll help you rebuild. You deserve peace, Elena." She shook her head. "You've done enough." But Ethan leaned forward, his tone gentle yet firm. "No, the truth set you free, but now, it's time to give you back the life they stole." Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, just as the first chapter of Elena's new life began. Weeks later, the wave J.D. Vance had ignited began reshaping Washington. Committees that had long been dormant were suddenly active, filing subpoenas and demanding accountability from the most powerful agencies in the country. The Integrity Act, that once seemed like an idealistic dream, was now gathering bipartisan support. But for every ally Vance gained, a new enemy emerged in the shadows, men and women who had built their careers on secrecy, not sunlight. Late one evening, as the Senate prepared for another heated session, Vance received a message slipped under his office door. It wasn't signed, but the words were chilling. "Stop before it's too late. You've made powerful enemies." His aides urged him to increase his security, but Vance refused to back down. "If I let fear dictate my choices," he said, "then everything we fought for means nothing." Meanwhile, Judge Barrett's reputation continued to evolve. Once seen as an adversary to Vance, she had quietly become one of his strongest supporters behind closed doors. She had begun pushing for judicial reform, suggesting that judges be insulated from political pressures and protected from external influence. Her colleagues were divided. Some admired her courage, others whispered that she was betraying the establishment. Yet she pressed on, saying only, "Justice must never serve power, it must correct it." The day of the vote arrived. The Senate chamber was packed, cameras rolling as the Integrity Act came to the floor. Senators shifted uneasily in their seats. No one wanted to be caught on the wrong side of history. As J.D. Vance rose to speak, the murmurs fell silent. "I stand here not as a Republican or Democrat," he began, "but as an American who believes truth doesn't belong to one party. It belongs to all of us. If this bill fails, it won't be because justice was wrong, it'll be because courage was missing." When the vote was called, the entire nation watched in suspense. One by one, the results flashed on the screen, ayes and nays nearly tied. Then, at the last moment, a few unexpected votes broke the deadlock. The Integrity Act passed. The chamber erupted. Reporters flooded the aisles, and Vance stood motionless, stunned by the victory. Outside, the crowd waiting on the Capitol steps cheered until their voices echoed across the night sky. For the first time in years, America had chosen courage over silence.